Tell you what a phenomenal week of baseball we've seen out at Petco Park. Padres have won 7 of their last 8. Now, some of that's got to do with playing the woebegone Oakland A's and playing the rebuilding Washington Nationals. I just fascinated to see how hot this team has gotten, despite who they're hitting all these home runs against. But I'll also tell you, they're not gaining any ground on the Dodgers, and that's disappointing because you win 7 of 8, you think you'd make up lost ground. They're still 8.5 back, and now the Padres have gone out and they start this big road trip in Boston. Then they go to Texas, then they come home, but then they got 9 in a row on the road against first place teams like Cleveland, like the Dodgers, and the very good Baltimore Orioles. But I'm just fascinated with what's gone on. Jurickson Profar has been hitting. Not a power hitter over the course of his career, but man, is he hot like a firecracker right now. Profar is hitting 324 since April the 30th. Think about that, 324. And of course, Jake Cronenworth has hit the long ball. Jake has done a much better job this year than last year. He goes out on this road trip hitting 264. Merrill, the kid, is hitting 284, and of course has had 7 home runs in about a week's span. Luis Arraez has cooled off. This is kind of a stunning statistic, John. He's hitting only 232 for the month of June after hitting 389 in the month of May. But he swings at everything, and I'm sure these hits are going to start to fall. Obviously, the injury situation with Fernando Tatis, I'm not going to say they misdiagnosed him. It's just an issue where he had 2 different injuries. One of the injuries, the stress fracture in the thigh bone, was tough to locate. He's going to be out. And, at one point they were thinking 6 weeks. Now they're talking maybe 12 to 14 weeks. It may well be well beyond the All-Star game. There is some good news as it relates to Joe Musgrove. He now did a 120 feet long toss. After throwing with a weighted ball. There's been no setbacks at this point in time. The bad news, Yu Darvish has inflammation in the elbow, which is going to shut him down. Let's talk for just a second about the incident. Part of me says Profar is excitable. That's his persona, John. Part of me says he rounded third base and jumping for joy. He did stare and glare into the dugout. And I think he just needed a cause. And the cause was, you walked the guy in front of me in the batting order to load the bases so you could get me out. Take that. What he did, he hit the grand slam home run. So in a sense, I think he taunted. Obviously, what happened at home plate the next day as he came to lead off the game, I thought Kyrie Ruiz was really wrong for putting his hand on him, although he didn't shove him. He just patted his shoulder as he was talking to him. Profar took exception to that. Machado comes from the on-deck circle, and he actually grabbed Ruiz, which everybody saw, the yank, and that triggered, obviously, the bench clearing incident and everybody, getting angry at the other guy. And then of course, the warnings were issued to both sides, and bingo, the first pitch from Mackenzie Gore hits Profar on the foot. It was a sidewinder pitch that broke in. I don't think there was any intent for Mackenzie Gore to nick Profar, and boom, everybody got upset. Mike Schilt got ejected. He wanted Mackenzie Gore to get ejected. And the very first pitch to Machado, he plants that sucker in the second deck in left field. So it was enormous. It was explosive, etc. Here's the question I was going to pose right at the onset here of our podcast today. Do incidents like this, the come from behind win with Profar the night before, then the explosion the next day, the sweep of the series to the Nationals, can this galvanize a team which has been very erratic and up and down? Can this put the Padres back into the pennant race? Or do we have to hold our breath, John, and just see what happens when they go to Fenway Park, then when they go into Texas, and then when they come home before they go back out on the road for the 9 games? Have they proven anything? Did they do it because they've come together? Have they been galvanized, or did they just hit home runs and get hot against 2 lousy pitching staffs in Oakland and in Washington? John, I threw a lot of high, hard ones at you. So you start with who's hot and who's not, and then whose side are you on as it relates to what we saw with Jurickson Profar and the Washington Nationals?
Well, I just love this series, everything about it. Let's just say right up front, Profar was 100% in the right on everything he did in the 2 games. So that celebration, he has justification for it. And besides these old school rules of, you don't show anyone up, that's like baseball from the 1950s. I mean, we've evolved, the NFL, the NBA, it's all entertainment, showtime value. I love it. The catcher for the Nationals was wrong. Good on Manny for doing a captain move to step in. But then Profar hits, the bomb to win the game. He hits the grand slam yesterday. Kyle Higashioka's hitting bombs left and right. It's been a great run here, but I'm not ready to say that this is the moment. This is the day we can look to, because we've had like 6 or 7 of those over the past 2 months. And then they end up going back into their, tread and water 500 funk. So I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm just going to hope it keeps going.
It's a terrible thing to say, but I'll say it. When Profar went yard, the first words out of my mouth were pointing towards the Washington Nationals dugout. Take that, bitch. Oh, I mean, it was, John, it was electric. And we have seen moments like that in the last group of years at Petco Park, where suddenly it just inflates everything, the fans, the sellouts, and it almost feels like an NFL pro football game in the playoffs. So, hey, they won it. They deserved it. But I guess I do side on your side of the street that they're going to have to prove it. Going to Fenway Park against a Red Sox team now, it's playing much, much better. In Texas, it's never been easy for the Padres to play. So big progress there. We haven't seen much where the whole lineup was intact, and now we have no Tatis. And Manny, at times, looks like he's struggling. And obviously, Arise is in a slump that you hardly ever see that guy struggle with. So off and running, we'll see what the next road trip brings and whether or not they can close the gap, because the freaking Dodgers are just not going away. Sidebar story on the Dodgers. This story is going to be in front and center and being discussed. Dodgers have obviously got significant pitching problems with 10 guys on the disabled list. Now there's a conversation going on as to whether Shohei Ohtani, who's an MVP candidate, should take part in home run derby at the All-Star festivities. He wants to. I've been told the Dodgers are intimating you need to continue to rehab. We don't want you to be in the home run derby. So this is something that's going to be discussed going forward in the next week or so before we get to the All-Star break. So you tell me, what are your thoughts? I mean, Ohtani deserves to be there, but I'll tell you, the home run derby puts enormous stress on a batter's body to try to take as many violent swings in such a short period of time. And the fact that, he's still in recovery from the elbow surgery. Are the Dodgers right for saying, please don't do this, stay in rehab, go to the game and play in the game, just don't be in the derby? Or does Ohtani have the right to say, I want to be in the spotlight because I am in the spotlight?
Well, he is, and the fans want to see him. But I'll say this, as a Padre fan and as a Giant fan, I want Ohtani in the home run derby. I want to see his swing get all jacked up and have him in a slump for part of July so we can gain ground. But the fans definitely want to see these 455-foot bombs. They'd love to have them. I want to roll back, though, to Jurickson Profar, because remember, like 10 years ago, he was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, and then he had the injuries. He never lived up to expectations, but are we now finally seeing the Profar that everyone thought he could be?
Johnny's a lifer. He's a 246 lifer. This is an aberration. Now, I don't know if it's a combination. Maybe he's made some mechanical adjustments to his swing. When you're hitting 324, that's pretty doggone impressive. I kept thinking, well, this is a nice 2-week window, John, but maybe this is going to catch up to him. Maybe they'll start pitching him differently. But no, that's not been the case. He's vibrant. This is not a one-time thing. He's a very different player right now. And then you add into the persona and the vibe and how he just seems to love being in San Diego. He's finally found a home after bouncing around and having not done what everybody expected. So this is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good. The vibes are great. The vibes above replacement are great. That's a credit out to Divine Sports Gospel. But I just love all of it. So, go Padres, Red Sox, Don Orsillo, homecoming. There'll be a lot to talk about this weekend.
Okay. Hey, if you want to join us, you're a Padre fan, you're a baseball fan, you're a Dodger fan, jump on board. The chat box is open for fans forum. When we're done with this podcast, you will get the opportunity to sound off. So sound off of the Padres turn the corner, do incidents like we saw with Washington, galvanize a team and bring them together, or is the jury still out as to how good they can be?